While not rated explicit, the contents of this podcast episode do contain themes that will not be suitable for younger listeners. Parental discretion is advised. The contents of this podcast episode may be inappropriate for young listeners.
It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Vulnerable children and adolescents are being actively encouraged to take their own lives by sexual extortionists, with tragic cases here in Australia and the US and a range of other countries where we're seeing young people being hurt and worse as a result of what happens online. And at the moment, Julie Inman-Grant, Australia's e-safety commissioner, along with a lot of other online safety experts and child abuse investigators, are really cracking down hard, slamming social media giants for not doing the basics to protect users from, I don't know how else to say it, just, no, I can't say the words I was going to say. That would be inappropriate for this podcast. Just unscrupulous, ruthless scammers who are trapping children into sending intimate images and then threatening to expose them to family and friends. There are hundreds, if not more, reports being made to federal police every month of children who have shared intimate images to overseas-based scammers who are then using hacked and fraudulent social media accounts to extort money and more from the people who have been scammed. We often speak with the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation, or ACE, on the podcast about these scams and what parents can do. They're known as honey traps. Today, I'm very, very grateful to be joined by somebody who has unfortunately been a victim of one of these honey traps, one of these sextortion attempts. I'm joined by Hayley, mum to 5 kids, and Jake, a 16-year-old, both from Townsville, who have unfortunately fallen victim to one of these scams. Thanks so much for joining me on the Happy Families podcast, Hayley and Jake. Now, we've changed your names for privacy, and we've also changed the name of the place that you're from, just so that you can have some anonymity here and talk freely. Can I start with you, Jake? You're 16 years old. You were 15 when this happened. Can you describe where you were, what you were doing, and essentially what happened to end up in this online honey trap?
I had just come home from school and I got in a conversation with someone I thought was another girl, and that night it turned into something more graphic.
So just before we get into that night, you've come home from school and you got into a conversation with this girl. Did you think that you knew her? Did she just slide into your DMs and say hi? Like, what was the initial beginning of the conversation? Where did it come from?
Yeah, just slid into DMs and just started talking. And
so what did she say?
Went from there. Said hi, and eventually started asking a lot about Snapchat, and I went along with it.
What made you go along with it? She was obviously somebody that you didn't know at this point, but what? She's good looking and she's conversational, and you're a 16-year-old, 15-year-old boy, right?
Yeah. Thought from the picture, like I said, it went further into more graphic, like pictures and messages.
So when you say that she sent you more graphic pictures and messages, you're suggesting that she became explicit. She was sending, nude photos or something like that to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as a 15-year-old boy, you're getting these messages, and what are you thinking? Are you thinking, all my Christmases have come at once, or this is dodgy, or I can't wait to tell the guys at school what happened last night? Like, what's going on for you in your head while this is happening?
It was a lot of mix of emotions and different feelings, but I thought I'll just go with it. Then that turned into something much worse, and eventually finding out, it wasn't actually a girl, it was someone completely different.
Something happens during the evening as you're messaging this person, and she, and I'm using she in inverted commas because it obviously wasn't who you thought it was, is sending you these images. Did she ask you for images of yourself?
Yes, she did, and I did go along with it.
Because that's what you do. And I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to soften this conversation for you or to make this any easier. I know it's a hard conversation to have, but when I talk to a lot of adults about what their kids are doing, the adults will often say, "I don't know why the kids would go along with this. Like, why would they go with it?" To use your words, surely they'd say stop. Surely they'd say this is crazy. But you did exactly what so many kids do, and you just went with it. Is there part of you that's just thinking, maybe this is real?
Yeah, it's sometimes like you know that it's real, but then sometimes you're wondering, is it real or is it not? And in that situation, it was not.
Did you end up sending images, Jake?
Yes, yeah, I did.
Once you sent the images, what happened?
About 5 minutes after, it was at that point I felt something was a little bit wrong, and in about the next minute after I thought that, this person had said, I'm going to ruin your life and I'm going to send these photos to everyone you know. And they were threatening to send it to family, friends, people from school, everyone that I know.
Your godmother?
Yeah,
even your godmother?
So, yeah, that.
Describe the feeling that you had when you realised what you'd just fallen victim to.
Terrified, definitely terrified. No clue what to do because it never happened to me.
They've threatened to ruin your life. Were there any demands made?
No, there wasn't. They just said, we're going to ruin your life.
So this isn't even about money at this point. This is just,
nope.
We've got the images, you're gone.
Yep. What
did you do once this terror hit you?
Straight away, I'm a mum. Had a lot of feelings going on. Didn't know if I wanted to tell her what had happened because I was worried that, like, get in trouble and get yelled at, which no one likes. But I knew I had to because if I didn't, it would have gone terribly.
So what did you say, Jake? You've stepped into Mum, Hayley's room or living room or the kitchen. Where was she and what did you say?
Oh, she was out helping one of my siblings with their homework. I came out. She saw the look in my face that something bad had happened, and she didn't know what. And it eventually, I asked her to come into her room and told my mum what had happened, and she was disappointed, but she helped. She helped with blocking this person, whoever they were, and deleting Snapchat, deleting Instagram, deleting all these social networks, and eventually had no other choice than to call the police. And we called them, and once they picked up, we explained exactly what happened, and we asked for help and received nothing. We got told, just delete the accounts, just go on with your life, and they just hung up. There's nothing they did. So it was up to me and my mum to stop all of it.
Hayley, I want to come to you now. Jake steps into the room and says, I need to talk. You obviously can tell from his face that things are not good right now.
Yeah.
When he explains to you what has happened, how do you react?
The panic on his face, he was as white as a ghost. I've never seen anything like it. I've been a nurse for a long, long time, and his face, I've never seen anything like it.
Just terrified.
And the panic in his voice, instinct just told me to, not to go hardcore parent on him and bring the hammer down, but just sort of go into crisis management, I think, and just help him sort of get through it.
Once you began to address things with Jake, was there any sense of safety, any sense of completion, any sense that, okay, we can get through this, or was it literally just anything could happen now? We don't even know what's next.
It was sort of all making it up. as we went along. We just didn't have any idea of how to manage it or what to do. I think I used the mentality that we wouldn't have this issue and we wouldn't ever have this issue.
Had you guys had conversations previously about online safety and making sure that you're not having interactions with people that you don't know? Is this something that you've discussed in your family, in your home?
To a degree, but obviously not well enough.
Well, you say that, but when I think about when we did Parental Guidance Season 2 and we did a whole lot of stuff around online safety, we saw parents who had been really diligent in having good conversations with their children about this, and their children still accepted invitations from strangers to engage in ways that were not safe and were not healthy. So what we see is this sort of disconnect between parents who are saying, yeah, we are actually talking about this stuff, and what kids ultimately choose to do. A couple of other questions as we sort of move to a completion of the conversation here, Hayley. Was there any ramification? Did those people who had taken images of Jake ever send them to anybody?
As far as we know, no, they didn't. Off our own back, not with the advice of anybody, just thinking, how can we minimise the risk of this person being able to contact any of Jake's contacts? We just deleted or we blocked this person on all the socials and then started deleting as many of his contacts as possible and then deleting the accounts themselves.
In a conversation recently with the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation, or ACE, they talked about something where if images are taken but they're not used in a bribery or blackmail situation, they may be taken and used for other nefarious purposes. Presumably, you've reported this to the police and now it's just a case of waiting and hoping that nothing more comes of it. Would that be fair to say? Like, where does this leave you now?
Initially, we rang Police Link for advice as to what to do and how to manage the situation. And it seems like the person that I spoke to didn't really offer any advice. So we don't know what's gone further and we didn't know who to report it to. So it stopped there, basically.
Yeah, fortunately in your case, that's where it has stopped. But still that idea, the terror, I think about what Jake said, I'm going to ruin your life, just the feeling that must have created. At this point, Jake, are you back on social media? Have you created new accounts?
No, never.
Never.
Since that moment, I've never searched on App Store or anything. Nothing.
As a family who's been through this, what advice would you give to others who are listening to this conversation and are understandably concerned that this sort of stuff could happen to anyone?
The biggest piece of advice I could give is, and it's something that I've taken from you, Dr. Justin, from early on, is to reassure your children that you'll love them and support them no matter what. And that's the biggest thing that I've always reinforced to my family, is that nothing that you can do or say or anything will stop me from loving you and supporting you no matter what.
Jake, have you felt that?
Yep, definitely. We didn't know what would happen after that, so I was very, very scared in that moment for the next day. But Mum reassured me and told me that everything will be all right. Hopefully nothing would happen the next day. And she kept me calm as much as she could.
Is there anything that you would add before we wrap things up?
Just keeping those lines of communication open and keep an eye on your kids' phones and devices. Well, I had a deal with the kids that I would have open access to their devices and look at their contacts and, you know, what they were looking at and who they were speaking to. But I never really followed through on that. I wish I had.
Well, the fact, Hayley, that Jake came to you and was open about things straight away is a credit to you as a mum. He obviously knew that he was safe and he knew that he'd have that unconditional regard from you. I think that's wonderful. Well, guys, I appreciate you sharing your story so very much. Thank you for taking time out of your day and for being open and vulnerable about something that's tricky to talk about, especially in such a public way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's Jake and Hayley from Townsville. Jake, 15 years old, when he was approached by an online scammer. Fortunately, no negative ramifications in terms of being exploited for money or having images shared, but certainly threatening, certainly terrifying, and certainly anything but what we want to see happening for our children. I know that many of you who are listening are going to be saying, so what do I do? What do I do? Tomorrow on the Happy Families podcast, I'm speaking with the eSafety Commissioner. The Federal eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, will join me and talk about what families can do when this kind of thing happens. Hopefully, we can protect our children from it. If it does happen, though, Julie will discuss with us what we can do to keep our kids safe and to make sure that there is no further and ongoing damage caused by people who have such evil and impure intent. I don't know what else to call it. It's just devastating. So please join us on the Happy Families podcast tomorrow to hear part 2 of this very, very important conversation about keeping kids safe online. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And for more information about making your family happier, we would love for you to visit us at happyfamilies.com.au. Check out The Quest. It's our brand new interactive membership that takes you on a journey to help your family to flourish and make your family happier. The Quest, we guide you, we hold your hand, and we take you one step at a time from where you are now to the levels of happiness that you want in your family. All the details are at happyfamilies.com.au. Talk to you tomorrow with Julie Inman-Grant.